Welcome to Learn to Crochet with MinCat. Today I want to show you how to do color changes. I will be using these two yarns, the blue and the green that I showed you in previous videos, and again we'll be working with a Bernat. And we're just going to work up a basic little square, and I'm going to show you some different ways of doing color changes. So I'm going to get started with the blue and just work up a little square. Alright, so I've worked up 15 stitches, so I started with 16 chain, then worked in the second chain from the hook, and worked up 15 stitches, and I've done 2 rows, all except for the last stitch on the second row. And now I want to switch to the green to get another row going. So I take my green yarn, and I make a slip knot, like I do with all the other yarns that I start with. And what I do now is I do my last stitch, and instead of doing a chain stitch to get to the height of the next row, I put my new slip knot on, pull it a little tighter, and pull it through. This will be my chain, and then I pull the blue yarn tight. So the slip knot is actually on the outside. I hope you can see this. The slip knot is out here, and this one, the blue yarn, holds it in place. And I don't cut the blue yarn off because I want to work with it again 2 rows from now. So I just go with the green into the stitch and work my next row. Alright, I'm almost at the end of my row, and now I want to pick up my blue yarn again. So again, I do my last stitch, then pick up the blue yarn that I had dropped before, just pull it up, and tighten the green. And this way, I can change colors very easily without cutting off my yarn. Now, this only works if you do 2 rows at a time and work in rows. If you only do 1 row at a time, you have a couple different options. You can either cut your yarn and then start with a new slip knot on every end. However, then you end up with a lot of tails you need to sew in because every row will have a tail at the beginning and a tail at the end. Another option is to take your yarn along. So after connecting the blue, instead of just dropping the green and letting it hang there, I bring it up over my other yarn. And I basically pull it around now to lay on top of the stitches, like we did with the little starting tail last time when we worked in the round, and do my blue stitch around it. So now I have the green laying right here. And I just crochet along the whole row with the green right between the stitches. Sometimes you have to tug at it if it gets a little bit tightened up in there. So, you know, if it pulls it back in a little loop right here, sometimes happens, so you just tug at the green and it straightens out. So I'll just pull my green yarn with me the whole way to the other side. And once I get to the end, again I tug at it a little bit. I don't want to distort the piece, so I don't want to tug so much that the whole thing distorts. I just want to tug enough so it doesn't hang out anywhere. And now I can just pick up my green yarn. You want to make sure you're not tangling these up here. So I pick up my green yarn and pick it up, and then I can do the same thing with the blue. Just pull it up and crochet along with it. So this way you pull it along with you, and you don't have all the ends on the side to work in. And you can make nice stripes. And just pull your yarn along. It does use up a little bit of yarn, of course, because you take it with you over the whole width. So depending on how wide your piece is, it might use up quite a bit of yarn. So if you have a really wide piece, you probably just want to cut them off and reattach them every time to save on yarn, even though you will have to. Sew in all the ends individually, it'll still be easier and less yarn usage. So this way I can do stripes. Now if you want to have color changes in between, which is what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to do sets of 3. There's a little trick for this. So I'm going to switch to the blue again. I'll pick up my blue right here. Just going to see which way the yarns are laying. There we go. I pick up my blue, connect it, pull the green tight, and I'll pull my green with me. Again, you can either pull it with you or not, but right now the first one I'm going to do, pulling it with me. So now I have 2 stitches, and now I want to change the color after the 3rd. So I don't do the 3rd fully, I just do the 2 loops. Then I pick up the green and pull it through, and then tug on the blue to tighten it. So this way I have 3 full blue stitches, but I can immediately start into the next stitch with the green. And again, I pull the blue yarn along under it. And I'll show you this color change again. So the last stitch you want to have in a color, you don't do fully. You just do the first loop, then pick up the other color and pull it through. Finish the stitch off, because this second time you pull through, you don't see it in this stitch, but you will see it at the top of the next one. So again, I'm pulling my green along. I do 2 full stitches, then just insert your hook, pull a loop, pick up your other color, pull through, tighten the previous color. And this way you have really neat color changes. Now another way to do this, I'm just going to finish this row. Okay, so this is an easy way to change stitches midway through. And you don't have to pull the yarn along if you want to stop one color and start with a new one. For example, if you're working in the round and you want to change to a different color, you do it the same way, but then you cut the first color off and don't pull it along and just keep working with the second color. So this is a really nice way to have neat, even color changes. And I'm going to show you one more method, which is basically the same as this, but you do different stuff with a yarn. So I'm going to switch to green, and I'm going to pull my blue along for now, but I'm going to stop pulling it along after a while. So I'm just going to do a couple stitches here just to get to about the midway point. So if you want to add a little color design, for example, to your work, you don't want to be pulling your yarn along the whole time if you don't have to. You can if you want, depends on what you like best. But I'm going to change to the blue right here. So I'm going to open the stitch again and pick up the blue and just do 1 stitch in blue, and then in the next row I'll do 2. So I just pull through and immediately change back to the green. There we go. And I'm going to do the rest of the row in the green and then work my way back, and I'll meet you there. And this time I'm not pulling my blue along, I'm just leaving it right here. Alright, so now this time I want to do 2 blue stitches around this one. So I do my last green one here, pick up my blue, pull it through, tighten my green. So make sure you don't pull the blue too much, you don't want to distort this piece, and you want your green to run under it. So I'm going to do 2 blue stitches. 1, 2, and I pick up my green again and pull my blue to this side where this overlay is, because I want it on the same side as this overlay. This will be my wrong side of the fabric. And again, I'll work all the way back and then turn around and work back towards the blue. Alright, so this time I want to have 4 blue stitches to increase it again. So this will be my last green stitch. So again, I pick up my blue from the back, pull it up and through, and I'll take my green with me because I do want to keep the green to work again on the other side. So I'll do 3 full stitches and then 1 color change stitch again. And I want to make sure that my yarn is on the same side the previous overlays are on, because that will be my wrong side of the fabric. And you can just keep going like this back and forth, and you can either make the blue wider or just make a square or just do 1 or 2 stitches every row. And this way you can work little designs into your work. Like if I would now do 2 stitches in the next one and then 1 in the following one, I would have a little diamond shape in there. You can put letters in there, you can put hearts in there, whatever you like. There are lots of patterns out there for those kind of color work pieces, and you'll always have a distinct wrong side which has these pieces coming along where you pulled up your yarn from a previous row. So you'll have a wrong side unless you carry your yarn along like we did for these rows. If you carry it along, you can just do a couple stitches in one color and then pick up the other yarn and keep going, and that way you have the same even thickness, because in this piece you don't really notice it much with this kind of work, but in some works, especially if you work with really thick yarn or a lot of different colors, these stitches are a bit thinner than these, because here you carry along another yarn, so it makes the stitches a bit thicker. You can't really see it, but you can feel it. These rows where we carried the other color along, they feel a little bit thicker than the bottom ones. You don't really see the difference. It's not that much of a difference, so you can't really see a thickness difference, but there is a bit of a difference. I prefer to carry my colors along if I use them a lot. However, you do see it between the stitches a little bit. So if you want a more even piece, you will have to cut it off every time or pull it up like we did here. But these are a couple different methods to change colors, and it's pretty simple to do. Practice it a little bit and it'll get easier as you go along. And this way you can do really nice stripes or other kinds of designs, whatever you like, with different colors. A lot of patterns will tell you when to color change, but they don't tell you how to color change. So these are a couple of methods of how you can do it. So to work with color changes some more, I will show you how to do a 2-color pot holder next week. This week I just wanted to do a quick lesson on how to do color changes. You can always open your pieces again. It's what I did with the one I just worked. Just pull them back open, rip them open, and wind up your yarn again, and you can work with it again. This is really good for practice. So maybe just do a couple rows back and forth, practice the color changes, and next week we will make a 2-color pot holder. And I hope you enjoyed this color change tutorial, and I will see you next week.